Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. How are we all doing? I haven't uploaded a video since March. Let's address that first, because just a little insight into just my life. Moving back from May, being like the standpoint, the past like 9 months from May backwards, I was working in retail, my first ever job in retail, and that messed up my life basically in terms of my sleep schedule and how much free time I had and my sanity gone, right? So in terms of my level-headedness and focus on what I actually want to do in life, which is this, that went out the window because I was not doing well mentally. And there were a lot of things going on in my personal life and all the usual things. I am now out of that job. I am in a new job, which is more centered towards what I am trained in, which if you guys don't know is graphic design. So yeah, it's a better environment in terms of doing what I actually spent the money to do at university. But I'm still focusing on this, but it means that I'm getting my motivation back. I recently uploaded a podcast episode on my podcast channel. If you guys don't know, I do a politics and makeup podcast called Playing in Politics. Everything will be linked below. And the latest episode on that did really well. It got 2,000 views in like 48 hours, which is crazy. And I gained quite a lot of subscribers over there, so that's gonna be fun. As a result of that video, I'm doing like a collaboration with another like small podcast channel. We're doing like a live reaction to the leadership debate on Question Time on Thursday night, so that's gonna be fun. Love opportunities like that. Everything happens for a reason. I also got a new tripod. As you can see, like the whole setup for the video is a bit different because the angle's different because currently the tripod is on my desk. It's like a vice clamp thing that's on my desk. Got a couple of new equipment so I can do the podcast easier. The message from this update is make life easier for yourself and things will flow, right? If it's easy, then you'll have the motivation to do it more. That's what I'm just trying to do in life in general, is just make things easier for me so that I'm not constantly depressed. So yeah, today's video, I put a poll up on my Instagram a few days ago when I was filming the podcast episode originally. I was going to do them both in one shot and only did the podcast episode because it got late. But I did a poll on my Instagram story basically asking you guys what content you want to see on my main channel, this channel, and I put a few options up, and the one that won was dealing with friendships. I mean, you can see that from the title, right? So we're going to be talking about dealing with friendships, dealing with being alone, and why having a small and very concentrated circle of friends and being very careful and being picky over who gets your energy is very important, especially for women, and being in your feminine energy. So we're going to talk about that today. I am by no means perfect, okay? When we talk about friendships and being picky and not having many friends, I am number one, have the most experience in this, okay? Yeah, if there's one person who knows about having to deal with being alone or not having many friends or struggling socially, it's me. Hello, have done since I was a child. Not really know why, never have, just had to deal with it. So that comes with a lot of experience, which I'm going to share with you today. I did just kick my desk, hence why that. Again, it's attached to the desk, so any movement is going to wobble this thing. Okay, I'm nervous that I did that. So for a little bit of context, I'm an only child. The longest and kind of the biggest friendship group I've ever been in was about 6 people, and the longest I was friends with somebody in that group was about 8 years, and then the others kind of piled on, and then that all ended horribly. 2018, and there are videos on this channel from that time that document this happening, not in detail, but allude to it. But yeah, 2018, the summer of 2018 was the worst summer of my life so far. I mean, not me in the top that I did my whole like 1 year since surviving emotional abuse video in. I mean, that tops everything, of course, but in terms of social aspect and friendships, summer of 2018, worst summer of my life. Absolute stress, paragraphs, suicidal people, not me, just backstabbing, jealousy, trying to be friends again on like terms and conditions. It was a whole thing. If you want me to do a story time at any point, because I'm not friends with any of those people anymore, like an in-depth video about these people and like that whole story, leave a like on the video. And I will do that because I feel like that's an important sort of side story from this video. From there, I started from scratch. It was annoying because at the time I felt like finally I'd got some traction socially and I was actually doing well, and I felt like I sort of fit in with the rest of society and people my age. So to have it completely sort of dismantle in just a fiery pit, just dumpster fire, was heartbreaking. I never really fully processed it until probably like 2020 or like late 2019, like when I started university, because trying to gain friends there was also a challenge. Even though, because after I ended that friendship and ended up completely alone for the last sort of year of sixth form, I had to go through my A-levels and everything completely on my own, pretty much. Going into university was such a hopeful thing for me. It was like, oh yes, but university, you meet all these friends for life and it's great. Again, if you want that story time, if you want the Freshers Week story time, because that was a whole other dumpster fire socially, I'll do that video as well. Again, leave a like on the video. But through all of that, I have always maintained that I try and see the best in everyone that I meet, because I feel like that's also being a Christian. It's just something intrinsically with me that I've always maintained, is I've always been a very sympathetic, caring person towards anyone who's struggled with anything, because I know that I've had to struggle to fit in and just have had a rocky start in life. Towards anyone's problems they're having with mental health or life or whatever, any struggles they're having, I've always been very sympathetic, because I know what it's like to struggle, not necessarily in the same way that other people are. Am I making sense? And I've always been wanted to be very supportive to people in my life. However, and I know that a lot of people out there watching this video are going to be the same, and I want this to be a warning. You've got to do that, still be a good person, still be a caring person, you know, still hold that as a core value. But don't let it turn into people pleasing, my god, because that's when you put yourself in sometimes quite dangerous situations. Again, story time from university that I can do. Not for this video, but I can definitely do. That's like 3-4 story times I can do. So yeah, again, I know all of this from experience, okay? The people pleasing part is something I struggled with unknowingly for a long time, and it was only really, as much as going through that emotionally abusive relationship was one of the worst things I've ever been through, having to actually rebuild my social life completely and putting myself out there afterwards, and like as with what I learned, him being my only social life and then kind of going back to an old friend for help, and then just having to heal from that whole situation, really just healed my people pleasing issues, because I think, well, I'd come to terms with why I ended up in that relationship in the first place, and why my sort of inability to properly set boundaries for myself really started to open my eyes to what I've been putting up with my friend. Again, many story times I could tell from the past like 7 years. If you want to, leave a like. But yeah, sort of having to sort of put myself out there in that new situation, having then realised what I was doing to myself or my life by being such a people pleaser, really helped me change my mindset on what true feminine energy means to me in terms of my social life. So I know I talk about like feminine energy, being a feminine energy, feminine power a lot on my Instagram content especially, but on here I'm going to try and start doing it more. Your feminine energy basically just means an energy of receiving. It's a caring energy. It's, you know, you're not so emotional about things. I'm not saying like that's probably the wrong way to put it, but like you're not trying to always just go, like trying to like meet targets all the time. Like we talk about being in your masculine energy as more of like sort of like the girl boss, achieving your goals in your career, vision boards, all that stuff. It's very much like going after what you want. And there is an element of that in feminine energy, but it's less about pursuit and more about learning how to embrace who you are accept who you are, sit in that energy and bring that energy to social situations and let people react to that without trying to create the perfect scenarios for other people to like you, if that makes sense. Which I know for young people is like people teen years might be quite difficult to go through. I mean, for me it certainly was, because especially having come out of that, I mean, I was always a bit of a people pleaser. I was always a bit timid. I wasn't like, I would always be very confident in my own head, and when I would sort of have conversations with myself, which I know sounds weird, but I bet we all do it. But like when it comes to actual situations, like I was so afraid of banter, I was so afraid of like insulting people, and that was because I've been bullied quite badly in my early childhood. So any kind of idea of potentially offending or potentially making someone upset was not something I ever wanted to do. So banter wasn't very good. I wasn't very good at banter. I am now. I can give as good as I get roast wise. But yeah, in terms of growing up, I was never really good at that, and I think it took going through 2018, going through that massive shift and sort of being with myself and really starting to learn sometimes what people can be like, really just made me realise all I needed to be was myself. And a lot of that did come just from my personal like self-confidence journey as well, when I sort of started to embrace my visual identity, which I'm gonna make another video about, in terms of like how to dress and how to, you know, like if you want to really step into your femininity, certain ways of dressing and like taking the leap, say in like a haircut for instance. Like the shag was a decision I made almost 2 years ago now, absolutely changed my life, and it really was just more fitting to me, and also just starting to take care of my curls, which obviously, I mean, we're on day 4 here right now, but I've switched up a couple of things in my routine and it's looking great. For day 4 hair, this is amazing. But as I say, I'm going to make a whole video about that. Another thing I wanted to touch on was, and it kind of links to what I was saying, like in terms of like the people pleasing stuff, but learning how to set boundaries and like standards. I'm reading my notes on my iPad, by the way, if you know, if you're wondering why I'm looking down like this so much, I'm reminding myself what I wrote, like the points I'm writing about. But learning boundaries and learning kind of like what I was saying about giving your energy and letting people react to that and then reacting accordingly, instead of trying to chase approval all the time. A lot of that is learning standards about how you want to be treated, and a lot of that comes from self-love. So I do a lot of videos recently, I've done a lot of videos recently about like, my last kind of 2 videos I made this year have been solo trips and talking about doing things on my own. And I've done a couple of those in the past as well. The most prominent one I think I've ever done was my London trip in 2022, because that trip saved my life. It was the one that, conversation with a friend of mine at the time down there, who basically made me realise that I was compromising in my relationship, and the whole relationship flashed before my eyes, realised it was abuse, and started the ball rolling to get out of it. So that was a really, really pivotal trip that will also always hold like really near and dear to my heart. I'm planning on going back to London actually after Tory conference in October, so not quite at the same time. I wanted to do something that was going to be kind of monumental of 2 years since I escaped that relationship, but it's not going to be London because it's too expensive at the time. It's going to be something else I think, but I'm trying to think of that at the moment. But yeah, no, I'm going down to London in October to it's gonna be like a theatre trip. I'm gonna do another vlog on it, but yeah, so just wanted to add that in there, something to look forward to later in the year, at least for me as well as the content. So but yeah, just learning how to be independent I think is something that is really, really important for anyone at any age, especially when you're young. I mean, obviously that is subjective. I know for me as a young teen, I think I've talked about this before, but not a young teen, like older teen, so like 15, 16, 17, I really struggled with social anxiety, and I think it was a lot to do with the people-pleasing habits that I had back then. I was so terrified of getting things wrong, so terrified of upsetting people, so terrified of everything else, and also was coming to terms with my stammer. I know it doesn't come across a lot. I've been, for some reason, been a bit better with it the past few weeks. That's not, you know, touch wood. But I was also coming to terms with my stammer because that was really starting to solidify in my late teens. It was really getting bad, and well, not like bad, but it was getting like more frequent, which was really frustrating. Kind of the scenarios where I thought I wasn't struggling, I'd started to struggle, like reading aloud or on the phone. That was when those things really started to affect me, and I do think that had a part in my social anxiety, and it still does to this day a little bit. The little bit of social anxiety I do still have is kind of related to my stammer, but I'm a lot better with it now. The idea of doing things on my own was so terrifying, and the way that I'm just willy-nilly just going about my day, and like will just take myself to hotels or Manchester or, you know, even London. The fact that I've been to London on my own like 3 times now is crazy to me. So I know that it would really make younger me very proud. To be fair, that has come from being alone, and I think if you are going through a period of not having any friends or struggling socially, I think that's the one thing you can do is just, especially if you've come just like from a big friendship breakup, it's been really messy, I think that's one thing you can learn to do that's really going to help you with your social situations in the future, is learn how to look after yourself, learn how to be your own friend, learn how to take yourself out on solo dates and solo trips, and like I was saying, learn how to be comfortable in your own energy, learn how to be comfortable in your own skin, truly sort of embrace your personality, truly sort of sink into it. That's all you can do, is be yourself. And I know we say this a lot just in society and on the internet especially, just be yourself, yourself is enough, but it truly is. And it took me so many years to realise this. I think that's one reason why God put me through so much struggle socially, because he knew that eventually I was going to just embrace who I was, and I knew, because he knew that I was going to struggle so much with accepting who I was. And granted, that was a byproduct of not really fitting in society, but just embracing my sort of uniqueness and quirkiness has also really helped me leap into hobbies like content creation and theatre and things like that, that really do allow people who are different to thrive, and it's kind of designed for the quirky people. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. And just like a little other spiritual note, if, you know, you feel guided to things that you're meant to be guided to, like there's a path laid out for you, and if you need to learn to tune into your intuition, really, especially as women, which we kind of have intrinsically anyway. We're very intuitive creatures, but the more that you lean into that, the more that you're going to be guided to what you're meant to be doing, which is another kind of side video that I could probably do about, like, you know, like allowing whatever you believe in to guide you on your life path if you want to do a little bit more like spiritual content, Christian content, I don't know. Again, I'm coming up with so many ideas here, story times, ideas, leave them in the comments. Anyway, but going back to what I was talking about learning about it being independent. So then when you meet new people, as I was saying, you know, this really sets you up perfectly for sort of the way I've worded it here is really good. Like, you should be able to observe how they approach you, how new people approach you, and respond to your personality, your sense of humour. And I put an interesting point here because for some reason, like especially since I became like, since my like massive periods of being completely alone and learning how to be alone and just like learning how to deal with loneliness, and for some reason now when I'm in social environments with friends, I don't know what happens, but this kind of stand-up comedian personality comes out, and I'm cracking all sorts of jokes, sarcastic comments, banter, all this stuff. And as I was saying, like 16-year-old me I would never banter with anybody really, because I was terrified of insulting people. But yeah, it just comes out naturally. I'm not even forcing it, but I feel like that has come with practice, and I'm not perfect by any means. Like, I still get anxious, I still get my social battery still gets drained, and I still get a bit grumpy sometimes. But for the most part, I really just like hanging out with people now. Like, it's great, but then I also have a lot of motivation to just do things for myself. It's a lovely balance where I am right now, and I aspire, and I hope that you all aspire to be in a similar position. At least that's what this video is trying to help you with. If you want to get that balance, I'm trying to give you advice on that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just kind of sit and receive people's energy, and as women, that's all we should be doing. So goes right back to the feminine energy thing I was talking about, you know. All you have to be is yourself, but you have to learn to be yourself before you can do that. You learn to have to fully be yourself, comfortable, not people pleasing, not trying to chase whatever other people want you to do, or saying yes to everything, and again, potentially putting yourself in dangerous situations. Again, if you want story time, I can do that. Once you do that, especially as women, all you have to do, be yourself, receive, observe, interact, and the rest will come naturally. At the end of the day, when you're growing up and growing into adulthood, especially as a woman, you don't want to be one of those people who is constantly obsessed with other people. Like I said, there has to be a nice balance. You have to nurture your own energy, fill your own cup first before you start giving that to other people, okay? And that's where that balance is. You don't want to end up this grown-ass woman who's still a people pleaser, who like just ends up on Facebook complaining about their life. Like, we all know those people. You don't want to end up like that, okay? So it is very, very important that, especially as you're going into adulthood, so like 18 to 20 and like 21, I mean, a lot of my journey was from like 21, like when I got out of the emotionally abusive relationship I was in. This is when the bulk of it happened, and definitely 22, like last year was pivotal as well, and I've done an awful lot so far this year as well. Just once you start that ball rolling, it just keeps going. It just keeps going and going and going. But I stopped being a people pleaser around 21, again, when that relationship ended, when I managed to escape abuse. And I feel like, I mean, it was definitely a wake-up call. It's definitely an unconventional way of doing it, and I know that not everyone's gonna have that. I don't wish that on anyone. You know, I hope you're able to do this just, you know, by yourself without the trauma, but some of us have to go through it, and unfortunately I'm one of them. Well, hey, just aspire to be a good and caring person, and a good friend, and a girl's girl, and all those things. Well, not necessarily girl's girl, be a woman's woman, be a grown-ass woman's woman. I'll link a video by Kelly Stamps up in the cards that she talks brilliantly about that topic, so much better than I could. So she's also one of my favourite creators at the moment. I don't agree with everything she says, but a lot of her stuff is very spot on for where I am in life and where a lot of women should be in life, in terms of their energy and where they put it and how they view the world and whatever. So link in the cards. Anyway, social life should be fun. It shouldn't give you anxiety or negative mindsets. So unfortunately, being a people pleaser tends to put you in the situation of people give you anxiety and negative mindsets. Growing and healing should give you the strength to say no if people are giving you anxiety, or like, you know, you should have the ability to get the ick basically from people not treating you right, especially when it comes to romantic interests, regardless of what your orientation is. For me, I have the misfortune of being straight. I say misfortune, I do love being straight, but men are a different breed. That's all I'm gonna say. Because that's probably something for a different video. But I mean, being a people pleaser and having sort of those, I mean, it does kind of come back to attachment issues in a way. Like, learning to be alone is also learning to detach, and also learning to love yourself and be comfortable in your energy just kind of gives you that ability to detach anyway, because once you're able to see yourself as a great person the way you see other people, yeah, it's like, what if you've spent a lot of your life kind of obsessing over people and admiring people like maybe too much without admiring yourself, like, again, that imbalance where there needs to be balance, you know, it's good once you start to obsess over yourself and that balance starts to be created, you are able to heal attachment issues. And I think I should make a whole other video about attachment issues, because I want to make a whole video about dating after abuse and my experience with Tinder and just my experience with dating as a 20-something after abuse, as I say. So that's probably something for another video, but having sort of that having an anxious attachment like I did really was something else that I healed, as well as like my people pleasing issues, because they kind of go hand in hand. And that kind of links to kind of the other part of the title of this video, is kind of being picky with friendships. And once you know what your standards are, and once you know how to observe how other people react to your personality, and if they're sort of also filling your cup, and it's like, because having friends and like being social should be a bonus. So once it starts being a bonus, like, you'll start to see people who do create that positive energy and do fill your cup up the same time as you, and like you're able to fill each other's cups up, and it's great. You'll be able to develop that intuition. Again, I'm going to do a whole sort of other video about intuition and really developing it, but once it gets to that point, like, yeah, you are able to be a heck of a lot more picky with who you're friends with, because you're no longer trying to please everybody. You know, you recognize people who have similarities to you, or just people's energy that you enjoy being around. And again, you don't have to try too hard, you know, that's the whole thing. It shouldn't be hard. If it feels good, it's God. There's a creator that I follow, like a spiritual creator, who says that a lot. Feeling good is feeling God, which I love that phrase, and that's how it should be with friendships as well. And then at the same time, if those friendships kind of turn sour or something happens, you're able to detach yourself from that and be like, you know what, I'll be okay. I'll find people who are better for me. Obviously it will still hurt if something bad happens in those friendships, but it's not going to be the end of the world. You know, it's not going to be a massive disaster. You know, you're able to be a strong woman and know that your energy is valued elsewhere, and a lot of the time that energy will be valued the most by yourself, which is how it should be. So yeah, there's a lot to take away from this video, but yeah, I hope you got something from it. And this was a bit of a ramble. Yeah, as I say, the podcast channel is really doing really well. If you want to learn a bit more about like politics, or just want to have a fun time over there, because I'm trying to keep it more light-hearted, by all means, everything in the description. Again, check out any of the links I'll leave in the cards. I'll leave a couple of other videos that might be relevant to what we want to talk about, like what we have been talking about. But yeah, I hope you got something from this video. I know it can be difficult, struggling socially and being alone, and especially when you don't necessarily fully know how to self-soothe, or you're still on your self-confidence journey. I'm gonna make a heck of a lot more videos about self-confidence and what I've learned over the years, because I've been on this platform 11 years in September now, which is crazy. And I don't want to do another video like going back on like my really old videos, which might be in part of kind of like the self-confidence thing. Maybe I'll do like a sort of 11 years on YouTube, how I've grown self-confidence wise. And I want to do a lot more videos about self-confidence and empowerment for women, and you know, just because I feel like it is really important. It's not talked about enough, I feel like, in a specific way, in the way I want to talk about it. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. The content I have planned is gonna be really, really fun, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and want to carry on this journey, because it'd be great to have you. It does get better, okay? Everything happens for a reason, as I mentioned earlier. You will get there. You will find your tribe. It might be small, but you know what? Finding that balance, the more you can balance things out between like small group of people, the better. And again, the more you learn to embrace yourself, the more you're just comfortable in yourself, and you're able to do things by yourself, and you're not waiting for other people all the time. Don't wait for other people to give you what you can easily give yourself on. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you join this journey to of more consistent content, and I'm just really excited to upload more, to be fair. The sun is doing beautiful things outside. It's like golden hour. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like for all the story times that I mentioned. And if you want to follow me on any of my social media, names which will be as always at the end of this video, and podcast channel and everything in the description. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.